Hey viewers, George here to do an impressional talking bit on this game, Bravely Default. What a fantastic game. I mean, this is an RPG that is definitely going to define the test of time, essentially. This is one that people are going to be talking about for a very long time to come. And this is by far going to make a lot of people's top, games of this year. And it really shows. It's fantastic. Like, right off the bat, I can tell you, this is like a 9 out of 10 kind of game. So, what makes Bravely Default one of the best RPGs I've played in a while? To start off, its combat has a very interesting approach to it. So, you can do like a standard, you attack, that takes your turn, and the turns go on, whatnot. Or, you can do these other two options, which is Brave and Default, hence the name. Brave basically lets you take 4 turns in advance, but of course that means you will have to miss 4 turns, because you're taking them in advance. Or, you could do Default, which is essentially defending yourself, but when you do Default, you gain a battle point, or a bravery point, or a B point, or whatever they call it, which essentially, when you go to do a Brave, you can use one of your points, your B points, to not miss a turn. So, like, if you had like 1 B point stored up, and you go to do 4 Braves, you only miss 3 turns. Basically, that's what it is. So, right off the bat, I mean, it doesn't really sound like a big thing that would hugely change it, but when you start playing it, especially when you get further into the game, it becomes a great way to do all these different strategies, and actually becomes necessary in later battles, especially when they get harder, when you have to be a bit more strategical. And especially when it comes to, like, say a character has a certain ailment onto them, or you have like a white mage. Using the default is like a way to make it so you don't feel like you're losing a turn, but instead like you're building some bigger turns up for later. So, if you have a white mage, you can build a couple defaults up and then heal everyone up at once instead of wasting a couple turns and having one of your characters end up dying. There are a couple other things in this, your standard RPG stuff. Jobs, there's a huge job system, there's a huge strategicness to it. Your character levels up, the job levels up on its own. If you've never seen job system, if the job level gets higher up, the more things you learn within that job. Another neat thing pertaining to jobs, especially with the white mage and the black mage classes, is you go to buy one scroll to learn like a spell, and everyone else can learn that spell. You don't have to buy like a scroll for each person. So that's a huge, big thing, because I've played other RPGs where they had the job class in it, and you have to buy a scroll for each character that you have assigned to a certain class. And it's a waste of, hard-earned in-game cash. What else can we talk about the mechanics before we get to some of the other aesthetic stuff? This game has a couple of really neat things. One, you could summon a friend, and I really like this feature because if you're someone who's really new at playing RPGs, or you're really early into the game or something like that, and you have a friend who's really good at it, or far in it, I should say, you can street pass with them, and you can summon that person to aid you in battle. I really like this feature. It's a really cool thing. Like I said, great for people who are new to RPGs, or who aren't that great at RPGs. And it makes this game a lot more accessible to other people than just people who really like RPGs. It makes it accessible to people who aren't too accustomed to it, so they get like this ability to make it a little bit easier for them. What else do we got in store in this game? They have a thing called SP points. I can't remember the S stands for. Probably like sleep points or something like that. But essentially, if you are playing the game, you have your 3S in sleep mode. You can, every 8 hours you get an SP point, which you can use for a Bravery +2, which essentially is like when you go to do a Brave, but it freezes time for that turn. It's a little confusing to explain, but it's, once again, just a nice little feature that really is meant more for people who aren't too good at RPG, so it's another thing that they use. You know, go to bed, put your 3S in sleep mode, you get an X point that you could use. It's a nice little feature, works really good for people who are new to the RPGs, and it makes the game a lot more accessible to more people than just a certain crowd. I really like that. It's a good thing. What else do we have to talk about? There's a lot to talk about, especially the mechanics, because they do a lot of simplistic ideas, but it builds into being a bit more complex. If you're really, really into RPGs, you'll find a lot of depth into your strategies, especially with the default and the bravery settings and the jobs. You can mix mash and stuff into that. Oh fuck, I forgot to mention, one of the negatives I have about this game so far, actually pertains to the SP points, is if you don't feel like waiting the 8 hours for 1 SP point, you can actually buy SP points. This is really stupid. You know, like I said, it's a good idea that you can have your 3S in sleep mode and essentially build up some points to help you. But the fact that you can use real world cash to buy SP points is really stupid. It's a quick money grab that really isn't going to work. I can't see anyone using it. I haven't actually used the SP points since, like, it teaches you how to use it, and then if you want to use it past that point, it's up to you. And I haven't really found a point where I felt like I need to use it. And I can't see anyone who actually uses the SP points spending money on it, because that's stupid. I mean, if you'd use play coins, because you build a shit ton of those up, that would be a good idea. But you're using real world cash, and it's just, why would you include this microtransaction into there? It's pointless, and it's not going to be used at all. It's stupid quick cash grab is what it is. I think that's all I have to do, talk about the mechanics. So, story, if you played an RPG before, especially a Final Fantasy RPG, because Bravely Default is a spin-off to Final Fantasy, and you'll really notice it, especially with some of the enemies. You've seen them before if you played Final Fantasy. But the story's nothing new. Essentially, there's these crystals, they're corrupted, and you have to go around and purify them to save the world from darkness. We've heard that story before. It does it fairly well. I mean, even though it's a standard run-of-the-mill story for RPGs, it doesn't really come off as being very, I've heard this story before kind of thing. It feels good. It works. And that's good, because it should work. Characters are good. They're very enjoyable. I had maybe one moment where I was like, I don't really like this character, but they quickly grew on me, and that's a really good thing. Even the villains, who in most RPGs you're supposed to really despise, and they usually make them really pretentious, or like, you really don't like them. Like, they always add this characteristic where you don't care much for them. But these villains are very fun to see on screen. And, like, you hate them, but you also really like them a little bit. And that's a really good thing. I mean, like, they add, like, these little quirks to them, or, like, a certain personality to them that really works with it. So, like, you got villains very, has a vanity kind of feel to that character. You got one that's a bit more muscle bound. Just like his dialogue of him being more masculine, and, liking to fight things. He likes to beat things up. Like, you get this hilarious sense to that. There's a black mage that has like this stuttering problem, like, and it's hilarious. Because it adds to the characters and makes them a little more than just this evil guy. It's more like he's the evil guy that has a stuttering problem. But he works for, like, the evilest people. But he has a stuttering problem. And he's also likable because he gets bossed around by a minion of sorts. And it's funny. It's good. It works. Like, the game is so good. There's a lot to like about this game. One of the things I really love about this game is its art style. The characters look, if you've ever played, I'm tempted to say Final Fantasy IX, but maybe not so much more, I think. But if you played a Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles game, the characters kind of match that style. But the backgrounds that they inhabit have this storybook look to it, like a pop-up book, or if you've seen like animes where they look at like an old book and they look and you see like those ancient pictures in that old book, it kind of has that look to it, if that makes any sense. But that's just kind of how it looks, and it looks really good. It especially looks good in 3D as well. This is like one of the games where you want to play in 3D because it looks so good in 3D. And how often do you get to say that about a 3D game, a 3DS game, where it's like, playing this in 3D is the best, because it looks really good in 3D with this simplistic art style, because everything's flat, but it has the three-dimensional perspective to it. Once again, it's a hard thing to explain, but it looks really good. What else do I have to talk about? Oh, another thing I don't like, and this goes across like every single 3DS game that always includes this. It has a small AR mode. Doesn't really impact the game at all or changes the whole play of it or the experience. It's just a very small thing. I've only encountered it once, and I don't think I'm going to ever encounter it again. But on the back of the instruction booklet, let me just grab this out. It has an AR card for moments where you kind of watch a scene play out, I guess. And you basically, obviously, if you ever use an AR card, you have to point the 3DS's cameras at it, and pops up, and it exists within your world. But here's the problem I have with it, and I've said this multiple times, is that my room, even though my room is very well lit, I mean, like, it's a standard lighting. You got like the center light in the room, and like it works, and you would think the camera would work really well in this room, but it doesn't. Everything is dark and red. You see how like this half of my face is like colored by the obvious screen from my computer? It's kind of like that, but like tinted dark red. And it's like that in every room of the house, except for the bathroom. And I'm not about to play this game in the bathroom just to fucking use an AR card. It's a problem with the hardware, and for some reason it's only the 3DS's hardware. I've used like the PSP's little camera thing they had with Invisimals. I've used Kinect, and what else? There was PlayStation Move works fine because it looks for a ball, but I've played with so many different cameras, and only the 3DS's cameras seem to have some sort of problem with the lighting in my room, which is really stupid. I hate it. But that's just how it is, and I have standard lighting once again, so maybe I can only assume it happens to most people, but who knows. What else do we gotta talk about? Voice acting. There's a lot of voice acting in this game. I really like that. I love voice acting. How they voice the characters is a bit weird. I mean, the voices work for all the characters, but there are very questionable motives for each of the voices. Some of them just like the one girl who's the Vessel, as I like to call her in the game, has a very monotone way of speaking on a lot of her dialogue, especially when it's paragraphs of them. So it's weird. Anything else I have to mention? Controls work really good. Everything works in this game really well, except for a couple of odd voice bits. The microtransactions is a stupid thing. And of course the AR mode, which barely plays, which actually doesn't play an effect in the game at all. Beyond that though, fantastic game. Highly recommend it. If you're a fan of RPGs, grab this. If you're interested in playing RPGs, grab this. If you like Final Fantasy, grab it. If you have a 3DS, why the fuck not grab it? It's like a really good purchase. $40, well, $45 when it comes to tax here in Ontario. But it's a good purchase. It's well worth it. Probably one of the best purchases I made in a very long time, because I've been playing a lot of crap that I can recall. But it's a fantastic purchase. Highly recommend it. Go out and grab it. And with that all said and done, until next time, keep on gaming.